Anna, the girl who changed the world. Anna was born in a small mountain village where everyone knew each other, and nature was an inseparable part of life. Since childhood, she was drawn to the forest. She could spend hours by the river, listening to the wind rustle through the leaves, watching the birds. She had a gentle soul and a rare sensitivity to the world around her. Anna seemed to feel the pain of trees, the worry of animals, and the joy of the first drops of rain. Her grandfather, a retired forest ranger, once told her, "You hear the world, Anna. That's a rare gift. Protect it." When she turned 18, the village faced a big change. A new road project was approved to go straight through the forest. People were excited. They were promised progress, jobs, easier travel. But Anna felt something deeper. If they destroyed the forest, they would destroy what made their home truly alive. She started collecting signatures, speaking to local officials, attending village meetings. Many laughed at her. Some said, "You're just a girl. You can't change anything." But Anna didn't give up. The first trial, fear. One day, she stood alone in front of the town hall, facing a crowd of skeptical faces, news cameras, and officials. She was terrified, but she spoke calmly, clearly, from the heart. When she finished, the room fell silent. For the first time, people truly listened. The second trial, compassion. At the construction site, an elderly engineer collapsed. People avoided him, thinking he was drunk. But Anna rushed to him, gave first aid, and stayed until the ambulance arrived. She didn't judge. She helped. That man later became one of her strongest supporters. The third trial, sacrifice. She was offered a prestigious job at an environmental organization in the city. Good pay, career growth. But her project to protect the forest was at a critical point. If she left, it could all fall apart. Anna stayed. 6 months later, the plan was approved. Part of the forest was declared a protected area, the road was rerouted, and the village slowly transformed into a model for ecotourism. Students, researchers, and volunteers began to visit. The forest was saved. Anna became a symbol, not a celebrity, a neighbor, a friend, someone who didn't walk away when it mattered most. In time, she started a foundation to support small villages and mentored young women to become leaders. But in her heart, she remained the same, the girl with golden hair who simply loved the stillness of the forest. Would you like a realistic 16 by 9 cover for this real-world version of Anna's story? Years passed, and Anna's work reached far beyond the borders of her village. Her foundation helped dozens of small communities fight against illegal logging, preserve local ecosystems, and build sustainable economies rooted in respect for nature. She began traveling across the country, giving talks at universities and speaking at environmental summits. But every time she returned to her village, she would walk barefoot to the edge of the forest, sit by the river, and listen, not just to the water, but to everything she once feared the world might lose. One winter, Anna received an invitation from the United Nations to speak at the Global Forum on Climate Action in Geneva. It was the most prestigious event of her life. But just days before the flight, news came that wildfires had broken out in a nearby valley, a region where she had once planted trees with school children. The fire was spreading fast. Without hesitation, she canceled the trip and joined the local volunteers. For 3 days and nights they worked alongside firefighters. She hauled water, comforted families, and stood firm on the front lines. Reporters eventually found her there, soot-covered, exhausted, but still calm. One of them asked, "You gave up the biggest opportunity of your life. Why?" Anna answered simply, "This is my life." The video of that moment went viral around the world. Donations poured in. Her foundation grew. But more importantly, people were inspired, and not just to admire Anna, but to act like her. Local leaders, teachers, and teenagers began forming their own environmental teams, calling themselves the Seeds of Anna. Eventually, her story became part of school curricula. Children learned not just about climate science, but about courage, kindness, and responsibility. And yet, Anna never sought praise. She often said, "We all have a forest to protect. Mine just happened to have trees." In the final chapter of her life, Anna built a quiet home at the edge of the same forest where it all began. She wrote letters, mentored young leaders, and, on peaceful evenings, sat under the stars with the same gentle smile. She passed away one early autumn morning, with bird song drifting through her window. The forest bloomed that year more than ever before, and across the world, in villages, cities, classrooms, and quiet trails, people still whisper her name, not just as a memory, but as a reminder. One heart, in harmony with nature, can truly change the world. Would you like a final image for this ending? Anna at peace in her forest home, golden autumn around her. Years after her passing, a foundation stone was laid where Anna's small wooden home once stood, now surrounded by trees she had planted with her own hands. The place was turned into a sanctuary called the Anna Grove. No tall buildings, no metal, no concrete, just winding forest paths, wild flowers, and a small wooden bench facing the river. People from all walks of life traveled there. Some came for silence, others to weep, and many just to feel what she once felt, the sacred calm of a world that breathes. Children ran through the trees with notebooks, sketching birds and pressing leaves. Couples sat in the shade, holding hands and listening to the wind. Old farmers planted oak saplings in her memory, and every now and then a young woman, usually a stranger, would find herself standing in front of the old spring where the river bends, feeling something in her chest shift, a warmth, a call, as though Anna were whispering, "Listen, you're ready." One day, many years later, a girl named Liana, quiet, serious, and unsure of her place, sat on that same bench where Anna used to rest. She had come alone, hoping to escape city noise and confusion. But something about the stillness wrapped around her like a blanket. She stayed for hours. At sunset, she opened her old leather journal and began to write, though she didn't know why. By morning, her first entry read, "I want to protect something. I just don't know what yet, but I think this is where I begin." And so, Anna's legacy didn't end with her death. It lived on in those who came after, in every tree planted, in every river cleaned, in every act of gentle courage. Her name became less about the woman herself and more about the idea that one life lived with purpose and kindness can create ripples that never fade. The Seeds of Anna became an international movement, and in time, children across the globe learned a single sentence by heart. Anna heard the forest, and then she helped the world hear it too. Shall I now create one last emotional image? The bench in the Anna Grove, golden leaves all around, and a young girl writing in a journal at sunrise. Liana's path. The morning Liana left the forest, Something in her had changed. She returned to the city not with a plan, but with a quiet sense of clarity. She began small, organizing park cleanups, starting a nature club at her university, and mentoring younger students who felt, as she once did, unsure but curious. One afternoon, during a seminar, she quoted a line she'd read long ago in Anna's journal, a line etched into the bench at the Grove. "We all have a forest to protect. Mine just happened to have trees." The room fell silent, not from awe, but from connection. Everyone understood this wasn't just about trees or rivers, it was about protecting the things that mattered, whatever form they took. Soon, Liana's quiet movement grew. People who had never considered themselves environmentalists found strength in small actions. Artists painted murals of forests and rivers. Street musicians played in city squares, raising awareness for nature conservation. A local cafe started giving discounts to customers who brought reusable containers and wrote "The Seeds of Anna" on each receipt. One winter, Liana was invited to speak at a global youth summit in Amsterdam. She wore a handmade necklace carved from a fallen oak branch from Anna's grove and stood at the podium with calm certainty. "We keep looking for heroes," she said, "but what if we became them? Not in grand gestures, but in daily decisions, in what we choose to care about when no one's watching." Her voice trembled only once, when she spoke of the bench, the golden leaves, and the quiet message that first sparked her journey. Cameras clicked, tears fell, and something new began. Chapter: Across the World Years Past. The Seeds of Anna became more than a movement, it became a mindset. Schools in Africa planted community gardens named after Anna. Villages in Central Asia restored natural springs, placing carved wooden benches beside them as places of reflection. In South America, artists painted murals of women with golden hair holding saplings in their hands. But no one tried to replace Anna. That was never the point. Instead, people began to ask themselves, what would Anna do here? And more importantly, what will I do? Chapter: The Journey Continues. Beyond Borders. Liana, now in her early 30s, became a quiet force on the international stage. She turned down flashy awards and interviews, always redirecting the spotlight to the work itself, to communities, to forests, to water, to the people who quietly showed up every day and gave their hands to healing the earth. She traveled often, but never as a tourist. In Indonesia, she helped rebuild a mangrove sanctuary. In Kenya, she planted trees with young girls who would later become conservationists in their own right. In Chile, she worked with farmers to create sustainable irrigation methods that respected the land. Everywhere she went, she found stories, not of miracles, but of effort. Ordinary people standing up for the world in small, relentless ways. In northern Canada, during a brutal winter, she met a teenage boy named Elias. His community had lost their river to pollution. The fish were gone, the ice was thinning, and the elders said the land no longer sang. Elias had found an old article about Anna, buried deep in a library archive. It had moved him so deeply, he started testing the water himself, using homemade kits and a notebook passed down from his grandmother. When he met Liana, he asked, "Do you think Anna would be disappointed?" "I haven't saved anything yet." Liana smiled. "I think she'd be proud you noticed what was worth saving." They worked together through the winter, gathering data, speaking to environmental lawyers, and rallying youth from nearby towns. Within 2 years, the river was under national protection, and Elias became the youngest speaker at a global climate forum. Chapter: The Echoes of Her Name. Decades later, Liana, now older and with lines on her face shaped by wind and laughter, stood once again at Anna's grove. The bench was still there, though weathered by time. She sat with a cup of tea and a reusable flask and watched a group of children run past, laughing, chasing butterflies through the leaves. Beside her sat a girl named Maya, no older than 10, with a journal clutched to her chest. "Is it true," Maya asked, "that Anna could hear the forest speak?" Liana looked at the golden leaves, shimmering in the breeze. "Yes," she said, but only because she listened. Maya opened her journal and began to write. A story, perhaps, a poem, a plan. It didn't matter, because the world had changed, not because one woman had saved it, but because she had inspired others to believe they could. And long after Anna's voice faded from the world, her echo remained. In every act of kindness, in every decision rooted in care, in every child who paused to listen before they acted.